Welcome to Wilcom Embroidery Fonts, where innovation and going beyond the limits with ESA fonts is our goal. Given that in mind, we're proud to present our new Flexi fills. Flexi fills are ESA fonts that go above and beyond anything traditional fonts have currently done. Now I'm going to show you the steps to utilize this innovative concept. I'm just going to type in the letters ESA, and you'll notice that I have a Gothic outline 70mm FF font. Now the FF stands for Flexi Fill. There is a font without the FF that is identical. The only difference is all of the satin stitches turn with the actual curve of the object. These actually stay in one direction. And because they're digitized as single objects, we can now manipulate them with more ease than having all of those angles that are turning. So I'm just going to grab this object and I can treat this like I would a traditional font. I can move and kern all of the pieces closer together. I could grab these objects and actually modify them or manipulate them. I can also go in and I can resize this, and I'm going to make this about 175 millimeters. And you can see how these are very, very long satin stitches. Now what I'm going to do right away is I'm going to take that first object and I'm just going to duplicate it. And I'm going to make it a different color. And I'm going to keep color number 1 as my primary object, and then I'll start working with these because I'm going to take number 2 and I'm going to break it apart. And you'll notice now it's broken into 3 pieces. And I'm going to grab those 3 pieces and I'm going to break it apart again. I found that once you've broken an object apart twice, then if I try to break it apart again, you'll see that it is actually grayed out. So this is the raw elements that I digitized for all of these objects. Now because they are the raw elements, now I can go in and I can actually change attributes. If I want to choose a motif, I can go into the motifs and I'm just going to go in and choose a single motif, and I'll choose something that might be a little bit friendly for something that size. So let's just do something maybe like this, or maybe something like that. That one actually looks pretty good. And you can just play through your motifs and choose whichever one you want. And you can always go in and change it after the fact as well. So once I've chosen a motif that I like, then I can sort of say, that's the one that I'm going to stay with. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to duplicate it again. And then once it's duplicated, I'm going to continue to go in and break it apart. And I'll break it apart once, and I will go back in and grab those objects, and then let's give it a different color, and I'll break it apart one more time. So now that I have it broken apart twice, I know that I can go in, and if I go to my colors, I can grab that object, and if I want to, I can change this to a tatami, and let's do it as a mylar stitch. So I need 1.2 millimeters, travel on edge. I want to have absolutely no underlay whatsoever, so we're going to turn off the underlay. So now the underlay is off, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this back in the sequence. Now I could take that object that I just created, and I know it's already broken apart. Let's duplicate it, and I'm going to make it a different color. And now I could make that just a running stitch outline. And that one I'm going to put at the very beginning as well. So now I have a running stitch, I have a fill that is actually 1.2 millimeter travel on edge without any underlay, and then I have my motif, which I can go in and play and modify and make it look however I want after the fact. Now I'm going to take one of these objects again, and let's duplicate it one more time. So I'm going to duplicate, and then I'm going to make a different color. And now what I could do is I could take that, and let's actually turn that into an outline, but I'm going to make this into a satin stitch. And I'm going to take that satin stitch and I'm going to make it, let's say, 1.5 millimeters in width. And I'm going to make sure that there is just a edge run or center run. Let's just try this. We're going to click off that one, click on. I just want to have a center run because it's a very thin stitch. So now I have outlines around all of those objects. Now I could take this object right here, the original object that's at the beginning, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Create Layouts, and I'm going to go to Offsets and Outlines, and I'm going to make sure I turn off the outlines, and I'm going to go to my offsets, and I'm going to have, let's say, 3 different rows, and let's make this one a different color as well, and now I'll click OK. And now I can see that I have 3 different offsets. Now within those offsets, I'm going to move that down in the color order, so it's at the very end, and then let's go to my outlines, and when I go to outlines, let's try a stem stitch, and I could do a stem stitch with either 1 or 3 passes, and that'll give a nice chain-like effect. And now I'm pretty much done. Now this original one that I created, I'm just going to delete that one altogether. So now if I look at how this is going to play, it's actually going to give me my running stitch outline. It's going to hold down all of my mylar. It's going to give me a really cool motif effect on top. And then it's actually going to do the outlines and then the finishing stitch at the very end. So this actually is going to work really well. Now the only thing I'll want to do is I'll want to make sure that I go in and I start to break apart all of these objects and resequence them. Because if I look at this, I have these 3 objects right here. So I have these 3 objects. And then if I go down and I look at these, I have these 3 objects right here. So I'm going to grab those and I'm going to move them up in the order right after the first one. So it's going to go right here. And then that is actually going to go and sew that part. So now I have the next piece, which is right here, and I'm going to move this one up to here. And then I have the next one, which is in the right place. Now I'm going to take these objects and I'm going to make sure that I get all of my pieces for the outlines, which are from here to here for the E. So I'll just select all of those, and then I'm going to move them up in the order, and I'll make sure that I put them right where it needs to be. And let's just go right up to the top here, and now let's go to the colors, and now I can see that I want to move it right to this point here. So now I have all of these objects in place. Now what I want to do is I want to come in and I want to break this one apart. So let's go back to objects. I'm going to go down and I'm going to take this next object, which is right here, and if I want to turn off my true view, I can see that it's going all the way through to here, and it looks like this might be the last one. Let's just grab this, and there's one more right here. Those are all of the objects that I need to grab, and let's move those up in the order as well. And now I have my next objects in place. So it's going to give me all of my objects in the sequence that I want them, which is very important because I want to make sure that I look at these objects properly, and I want to make sure that they all sew in the correct order. So that way it's going to actually give me my outlines and my tack downs to show me where to place things. So when I look at this now as a redraw, I have my outlines where the mylar is going to be. That's going to hold all the mylar in place first, then it's going to do the fill, then it will do the motif, then it will do the border, and then it will continue to move onto each of the objects. This is a big design, and I want to make sure that I do each letter in sequence. And that's the beauty of the software, is I'm able to go in and basically modify every single attribute of this design, so I know that it's going to sew out flawlessly when it's done.